Ladies and gentlemen, King is here, back on another banger, back on an episode of reacting to Undertale videos. Now, we've been doing what I've been reacting to. I've been reacting to a couple of them. I think so far I've reacted to 2 or 3 videos, and now I have a list. Today we're doing everything about Gaster's Motif and the Deltarune soundtrack, a musical myth-busting odyssey. Odyssey, that's how you say that word. Okay. After that, this is in no particular order. These are the videos I have in line, minus the iceberg video. And after that, I think I'm just gonna be playing the games. after that until chapter 3 and 4 comes out this year. Hopefully, I think that's what everybody's either been telling me comes out this year or next year. So we're going to see on the list of videos that I have planned that's going to be coming out throughout the days. All Undertale songs are connected. What the internet did to Undertale. Let's rip the Dreamer house apart to find chapter 3 secret boss. Something I found on Tumblr. The night theory, the night papyrus theory, and the Deltarune chest theory. I feel like everybody in the comments was asking for this video in particular. So I was thinking this is the good video to start off with and let y'all know the other run of videos that's gonna come out in not that particular order. But yeah, after this, we are going to keep playing Undertale Yellow, and we're going to wait for Deltarune 3 and 4, or Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4. So without further ado, make sure you like the video so I know that you like it. Subscribe to the channel so you can see more. Ring the bell so you know my videos come out. Comment in the comments any other video ideas you might have. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch, follow me on TikTok. Let's get straight into it. Actually, hold on. I gotta make sure we gotta fill the separation. All the energy bending. We gotta fill the separation. This is its own video. We can't be having the list as we're watching it. We can't have shit to be merging. Okay. Oh, can I get my 1080? Yeah, 1080 60. Appreciate you.
Where do I even start? Guess I'll try the beginning. Gaster's theme, also known as mus_st_him, if you go to the game's files,
I like it.
Is a short loop of music that can be heard in Undertale under very specific circumstances. First, more as a step 0 really, you'll want to be playing on patch 1.001 or later, because in the original release of the game, reaching Gaster's theme was impossible without save file editing. Second, your file's fun value, a random number between 1 and 100 generated each time you reset your save, must be exactly 65. Third, you need to walk north out of the save point room in Snowdin where boxes are introduced, the path that normally leads to a dead end by the riverbank. Finally, make one last 50-50 coin flip and congratulations, you've found the sound test. This weird, slightly scary menu lets you select and play such banger tracks as and
hold on.
These songs are very cool, and that might have
do
no
a sound
relevance
test
to
reaction.
The fourth and final track, though, is Gaster's theme. We know this because it's called Gaster's theme.
Oh, really?
It sounds like this, and once you start playing it, there's no way to stop. The other options don't work anymore. All you can do is mash your keyboard for 20 seconds until the music suddenly cuts out, and the game flashes you this message.
Thanks for your feedback.
And plops you back in Snowdin. Gee whiz, we said in 2016. I sure bet that isn't foreshadowing anything. Fast forward 7 years and oh boy! What's this? What's that? What are you doing? Do you have a permit for this? To cut a long story short, this obscure little piece of shit was now the most famous 4 notes after... Why did this happen? Well, you know why. And if you don't, this isn't the place to find out. There's about 1,000 other perfectly good videos going over Gaster's significance to Deltarune in mind-numbing, marrow-sucking detail at this point, so please just watch one of those. If you're a Deltarune lorehead who's made it to current year without getting up to speed on Gaster lore, then honestly I'm starting to think you're maybe just operating at a spite at this point. Regardless of how we got here, the fact remains that Deltarune fans have made quite a hobby out of sniffing out where Gaster's theme might be creeping its way into the game's score, and I'm right there with them. Toby's been using music as a vehicle for storytelling at least since Homestuck, and with Undertale and Deltarune, he's pushed the technique so hard that you'd have to be literally deaf to ignore it as an avenue for analysis, and even then, Beethoven could probably still pull it off.
Beethoven?
I have, however, seen many instances of what I believe is the fanbase getting a bit too caught up in the Gaster Gold Rush and pointing out quotes of his theme that just aren't really there. Okay. So for this video, I thought I'd finally wring some use out of my half a music degree and look into the matter myself. Hopefully, by the time we're done, we can all learn a bit about arcane Deltarune lore and music theory. Sound good? Sounds good. Let's go.
Let me know about it.
I've been over what Gaster's theme is, but not yet what it is. Musically, I mean. First off, it's the theme of Gaster. For the purposes of this discussion, a theme is basically a motif, and since Toby Fox is in the picture, you can bet your favorite ass cheek that motif is of the light variety.
Chad,
and I don't mean
which
like
one's your
Pepsi.
favorite ass cheek?
I'm talking
Left
about
or right?
light
Or
motifs,
middle?
a word that, as a Toby Fox fan, you've definitely heard tossed around, but might not know the exact meaning of. So, let's talk about it. First off, leitmotifs are motifs, but most motifs are not leitmotifs. At its most basic, a motif is just any recurring pattern in a piece of music that contributes to its identity.
Okay.
And by pattern here, I mean a pattern of notes, rhythms, specific instruments, anything really, just mostly notes. The music world's favorite example of this seems to be the from Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. This little four-note flourish doesn't represent any particular person or concept, it's purely musical, and yet it's developed and iterated on as the symphony progresses in a remarkably narrative-feeling way. It's almost like the motif is the protagonist of an invisible story, going on adventures and undergoing character development in an abstract world that we can hear and imagine, but not see.
Ooh.
Huh,
I like
interesting. Kinda makes you wonder what would happen if you took that abstract storytelling potential and made it concrete.
Enter Richard Wagner, born 1813. Beard, Peter class. Hobbies, cuckoldry.
What?
Fleeing countries. Bassoon
Fleeing countries?
litigation,
Hey, yo!
socialism, racism. Queer baiting the King of Germany.
Wait, what?
What?
Yeah, he was kind of a weirdo. Anyway, Wagner was a dude who made operas. He wrote a lot of music, he wrote a lot of characters. One day, something occurred to him. Over the course of an opera, characters tend to go through arcs. Similarly, over the course of a piece of music, motifs tend to go through development. Two parallel media, two parallel evolving entities. So why not just stick them together?
Ew.
And thus the leitmotif was born, a fragment of music that represents a thing and a story, and undergoes musical changes to reflect any narrative changes that occur to that thing.
Okay.
Just like the characters they often represent, leitmotifs are a combination of consistent and variable elements. To claw my way back into the ballpark of the original topic, here's Sans.
Right.
Here's Sans' theme. Here's Sans with osteoporosis. Here's Sans' theme, but lounge jazz. Here's Sans dressed like an arcade carpet.
Okay.
Here's Sans' theme arranged like an arcade carpet, etc. Clearly, we have major changes between each of the examples here, but there's also a stable core of fundamentally Sansian features that lets us identify them all as representing the same character.
Okay,
Like a Stretch Armstrong doll, a leitmotif can be bent pretty far out of shape before becoming unrecognizable, but this malleability is also what makes the task of identifying leitmotifs so tricky, especially in the context of Gaster's theme. How much about a motif can be changed before you get a ship of Theseus that can no longer reasonably be called the same motif?
What the hell is that?
Where do you draw the line?
Is that a cat? Music HUD. Hey yo, transition was hard. Love it. You press the one key and all this is happening? What key did you press the C key? God damn. Chat, what's the significance of the cat?
Welcome, everyone, to the Deltarune motif comparison apparatus 666 billion.
Is that
the
the
function of this
machine?
device is, much like a prism, to refract a single motif into a rainbow of constituent features.
Okay.
Displayed in the central monitor is Gaster's theme, written in standard musical notation. Let's hear it.
DMCA.
Yep, that's Gaster. If you don't read music, that's okay, because music notation is weird, arbitrary, and overall just a bit shit. It packs together simultaneous information about pitch, tonality, and rhythm, which can make different excerpts hard to compare at a glance. The radial modules of the DMCA 666 unpack this information.
Right.
Let's start with rhythm. Here on the right, we can see that Gaster's theme is played at a speed of 110 beats per minute.
Right.
A beat here refers to the length of one of these notes, with no curly tail, also called quarter notes.
Okay.
Gaster's theme, however, is written in curly-tailed eighth notes, which last half a beat and are thus twice as fast. There's also 16th notes with two tails, which are twice as fast as eighth notes, and so on. The absolute duration of each note doesn't really matter though, since 4 eighth notes played at 110 BPM is the same as 4 quarter notes played at 220 BPM. What matters here is that all 4 notes are the same length, meaning Gaster's theme has a steady rhythm with no variations. In other words, it's really boring, and not a very distinctive feature of the motif.
Okay.
Looking at how Toby uses other leitmotifs such as Heartache, Spear of Justice, Alfie's,
never know. Oh my
You can also
god.
see that rhythm is often the first thing to change when a motif gets remixed for a new context. So unfortunately, this module won't be the most useful for identifying Gaster quotes. It still looks cool though, so I'll keep it here for completeness. Next up, we have the interval module. Please accustom yourself to the sight of it. We'll be spending a lot of time here. So, first and foremost, an interval is the distance in pitch between two notes. To explain why they're so important, I'll ask a question.
Okay.
What's a song from the Deltarune soundtrack that starts on this note? Think about it, 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 and time's up. If your answer was Checker Dance, you're wrong, since the background music's been playing in the wrong key this whole time. If your answer instead was, I have no fucking clue, Andrew, this is impossible, you're on the right track, since most humans, even including trained musicians, are really, really bad at identifying pitch. But wait, how does that make sense? Isn't hearing pitches half the point of music? Well, yes, of course it is, but the pitch you're actually hearing in that case is relative pitch. That is how different the pitch of each note is from the surrounding notes, or from a fixed reference point like the root note of a key. Standard music notation specifies the absolute pitch of each note, the kind you can't actually hear. The reason for this is that you need to know absolute pitches for stuff like playing the music on an instrument, but when you just want to analyze how the music sounds, dealing with note names like A, B flat, and F is kind of like comparing long jump records using geographical coordinates. Theoretically, the same information is there, but it obfuscates the part we actually care about, the distances. And so, what the interval module displays is simply the distance, or interval, between each note to the next in a given melody. The intervals are measured in semitones, which is the pitch difference between two adjacent keys on a piano, and are prefixed with either a plus or a minus sign depending on whether the interval goes upward or downward from the first note. In Gaster's theme, for example, we start on A and move up one semitone to B flat. We then jump up 7 semitones to F, back down 7 semitones to B flat again, and finally back down a semitone to A when the theme repeats. The beauty of describing a melody like this is that these intervals don't change when the theme later shifts down a semitone to start on A flat.
It's 7 because it hits along, it doesn't hit along, it hits along, it doesn't hit along.
7, -1 are the fundamental fingerprint of Gaster's motif, and given its simplicity in other areas, I believe this is by far the most important feature to look for when identifying it. There is, however, a catch.
What's the catch?
In Toby Fox soundtrack, even a leitmotif's intervals are not immune to change. Just look at Your Best Friend versus Finale. Or Sands versus Raining Somewhere Else. When this happens though, it's usually in motifs with much longer and more complex melodies, meaning their intervallic fingerprints are hefty enough that they're still recognizable even if you ignore the size of the intervals and just look at whether the notes go up or down, what you'd call the melody's contour.
I see it.
Down contour of Gaster's theme, by contrast, is so incredibly basic that if we use it as our only standard
Stop throwing bread everywhere.
We can find Gaster's theme turning up in some very, surprising places.
That as? No fucking way.
So, yeah, we need the intervals. I mentioned a second ago that Gaster's theme's intervals don't change when it's transposed down a semitone. This was a subtle reference to the fact that after 4 repetitions, Gaster's theme transposes itself down a semitone. This is a distinctive enough feature of the theme that I gave it its own unit on the DMCA 666, the transposition module. This one's pretty simple. A transposition just means shifting every note of a melody up or down by a number of semitones. For melodies that are more firmly rooted in a key, this often requires tweaking some of the intervals, but Gaster's theme isn't quite tonal enough to care about subtleties like that, and just shunts every note down uniformly. Speaking of which, we have the tonality module. This thing should probably just be called the key module, but that looked really bad in this font, so I went with a slightly fancier term. I'll be upfront here. This thing is not useful for analyzing the leitmotif. It is, however, an excuse to talk about more music theory. And so I will. Musical key is a bit of a weird concept, since it's really 2 different bits of information glued together. A piece's tonic note and its mode. Take the key C major for example. C is the tonic, meaning the root note the key's built on top of, and major is the mode, which is basically just a list of, intervals that you follow from the tonic to see what other notes get included in that key. The interval pattern for the major mode is 2-2-1, 2-2-2-1, but there's also minor, Dorian, Lydian, Mixolydian,
Mixolydian,
blues, and many more. It's pretty easy to hear what mode a piece of music is in, but for all the same reasons I discussed in the interval module, it's almost impossible to tell by ear what the tonic is.
Okay.
Surprisingly though, this actually wasn't always the case. Back in the good old days, Western classical music was played using a different tuning system called just intonation. Describing exactly how it was different is a little complex, but basically it had the effect that moving a key to a different tonic actually created tiny changes in the spacing between the notes, giving each key its own subtly unique sound. In modern times, though, we instead use this hack job system called equal temperament that irons these variations out and relegates the role of the tonic note to a sort of dippy sonic zodiac sign, at least from the listener's point of view. Oh right, we were talking about Gaster. Yeah, the thing is, Gaster's theme doesn't really have a key, or if it does, it's impossible to pin down exactly which.
Right.
The uniform downward modulation creates a set of notes that don't fit nicely into any common mode, as far as I'm aware, and it's more likely that Gaster's theme just wasn't written with a definite key in mind.
Okay.
I'll throw the keys of other tracks we discuss up here anyway, though, because it's fun trivia.
Okay.
Last but not least, we have the miscellaneous module. It's
Very
basically a
spooky.
big amorphous sack that hoovers up info too nebulous or contextual to give dedicated displays. Unfortunately, because Gaster's theme is so minimal, there's not a whole lot left to discuss about it besides the fact that it's quite repetitive. Ideally, I'd be able to dig further into the gory details of how the theme was produced, the instruments and effects and whatnot, but unfortunately I'm much more qualified to analyze music theory than digital music production.
Where is he going?
And so we'll just have to move on for now. This really is an unfortunate gap in my skill set, and if there was anything at all that I could
I thought that was Sonic the Hedgehog.
Gaster's theme. Not too difficult to recreate, but should be interesting nonetheless. Very, very interesting. In FL Studio, Toby's DAW of choice, we can load up the Chrono Trigger sound font. Selecting the piano,
I need to play
turn up
Chrono
the release
Trigger.
of the notes, giving them a sustained effect. A lot of people don't know this, but Gaster's theme actually has a left-hand part.
Really?
Let's do the main melody.
Ooh.
Fun fact, this is the same piano used in another hymn, which I'm sure Andrew will have more than a few words to say about.
Do you hear the light motif? Do you hear it?
For the post-processing, the main effects we hear are a delay, some EQ tempering to give it a sort of radio telephone effect, and reverb to give it some space.
I love it. Him.
And that's it for Gaster's theme. Take it away, Andrew.
A rabbit creature did it for me. Nice. Hold up one second though, if Gaster's theme does actually have a bass line, the added harmonic information might give us just enough evidence to actually assign it a key. As it turns out, it's kind of in D minor. Huh.
D minor.
Well, that's neat. Ever wondered what Gaster's theme in a major key sounds like? No? Well, too bad. Apparently it's this. I'm not sure if this changes anything, but I'll leave it down here in case it's useful. Won't be though. Alright, I've kept you waiting long enough. Let's analyze some Gaster sightings.
Screenshot
The way
for
this is
Chrono
going to
Trigger.
work is that I'll keep the data from Gaster's theme itself on the diagram in these green-colored sections for reference, and display the data from each prospective quote with yellow color coding. If that gets confusing, just remember, green for Gaster and yellow for
Yo dog, I think I just heard a leitmotif.
Some candidate excerpts will be longer than 4 notes, but that's okay since the actual Gastery part can, by definition, only take up about 4 notes at a time, and that's what I'll be focusing on.
Makes sense,
Also,
makes sense,
for
makes
visual
sense.
clarity, all the music notation will be shifted into the octave that puts it closest to Gaster's theme in the treble clef. As for where the candidate Gaster references are coming from in the first place, the examples I've gathered are a combination of my own investigation into the soundtrack, basically just going through each piece sequentially while listening really hard, and this 2019 video from Media Motifs that attempts to catalog every occurrence of Gaster's theme in Chapter 1. Now, across all my previous videos, I've avoided directly commenting on the work of other channels. The reason for this is twofold. 1, my scripts can come off as kinda snarky, and I don't want to start a flame war over nothing.
Right.
And 2, I can think of better uses of time than setting out to individually counter every Deltarune theory I disagree with, such as reading Higurashi, or jumping into a volcano. This time, though, it's a bit different. Based on pretty much every conversation I've had involving the combination of Gaster's theme and Deltarune, this one Media Motifs video seems to be the touchstone for the fandom's collective knowledge on the topic. A quick YouTube search confirms this. Not only does Media Motifs seem to be the only sizable channel channel filling this niche, their Gaster video also has a Christopher Moon comment, which is the only true marker of success within this industry. The problem here is that, by the creator's own admission, this video was never intended to be taken that seriously, and unsurprisingly, following that disclaimer, it contains a lot of sketchy information. Unfortunately, and yet predictably, the video's self-awareness of its own limitations hasn't stopped a large number of people from consuming its contents uncritically and proceeding to parrot its findings ad nauseum in Discord chats worldwide. All that is to say, I bear media motifs no ill will, but this topic is long overdue for a second opinion. Now, let's get into it.
Another hymn. Okay. Right.
Oh, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
So, I've got good news and bad news. Good news is that in precisely one try, looking at the very first song in the Deltarune soundtrack, we've been handed a specimen of Gaster's theme fit for display in the fucking Smithsonian. It's so convenient, it's almost like someone, I don't know, planned it to be the first thing you'd hear after starting the game.
Like what?
The bad news is that this is the last time Toby's gonna hand us a win remotely this free.
Okay.
Getting into the details, you can see that not really much has even been changed. The intervals are perfect, as is the note order. It repeats very similarly to the original, except for the doubled first note, and even modulates downward, albeit by a whole tone instead of a semitone.
Right.
As if this wasn't already enough, the melody's even played on the exact same Chrono Trigger piano as the original theme. In the face of all those similarities, and the fact that it's literally the only melodic content in the whole track, the tweaked rhythm barely makes a dent. It's super duper just Gaster's theme.
Super duper just Gaster's theme. Scarlet Forest, okay.
We're off to a strong start here.
I was gonna say.
While not as brain-dead obvious as another hymn, the Gaster quote here is pretty solid. It's one thing to stuff a motif down in a musty, half-audible bass line, but here, the Gastery bit arrives right at the entrance of a very exposed melodic phrase, front and center. The trick with this melody is that it's two weak quotes of Gaster's theme on either side of one perfect quote.
Okay.
I'll call them A, B, and C respectively.
That's why I'm getting mixed.
In A, the top note only goes up 4 semitones instead of 7, and in C, the fourth note only drops down a semitone before transitioning into a mostly unrelated conclusion.
Okay.
In isolation, these would both be very poor matches, but once we throw in B, an intervallically perfect Gaster quote, it recontextualizes both A and C as variants of itself. A having been tweaked to work as a Scarlet Foresty lead-up to the full motif, and C being tweaked to wind the motif down to a Scarlet Foresty conclusion that has no equivalent in Gaster's original, endlessly looping theme.
Oh, that's racist.
At risk of oversimplifying, this is kinda just how melodies are made. You take a simple motif, make a few tweaked versions, copy-paste them around a bit to add length, and plug the gaps with unique material to keep things fresh. And in this case, I think there's a decent argument that the underlying idea this melody was constructed from was Gaster's theme.
Okay.
As for why it appears in the background music of the Scarlet Forest, I'm less sure. We'll just have to see if it's the start of a pattern. By the way, if anyone's interested in learning more about this process of elaborating motifs into melodies, 8-Bit Music Theory has a banger video about Gwyn's theme that covers it. I'd recommend checking it out.
Alright, give me to the next one. I gotta lock in. Man!
Okay, before even looking at the music, this track comes with about 50 pounds of baggage we need to unpack.
You know, it was
First off, it's not originally from Deltarune. Toby first released it in 2012 under the title Waltz of Sekam Masada as part of a short Yumi Nikki tribute album. Now, I'm no Yumi Nikkiologist, but according to the game's wiki, Sekam Masada is this guy, an NPC you encounter in front of a huge keyboard in a spaceship. He looks kinda like the Mystery Man sprite, I guess,
you know.
but not as much as Uboa, who's also a Yumi Nikki character. Second piece of baggage is that this song plays in the hidden egg rooms, which I know a lot of people already associate with Gaster. The reasoning behind this is
actually surprisingly simple.
Just kidding, it's not simple at all. But people do seem to like the Sieve gaming bits, so...
The secret rooms in Deltarune contain a man behind a tree who gives you an egg. In the True Labs from Undertale, there's a fog-filled room where Frisk can interact with invisible objects described as feeling like a man and like a tree ripe with fruit. After clearing the fog, both objects are revealed to be refrigerators. One of the few places you can put eggs in the secret rooms is a refrigerator in Asgore's house. The original occupant of the True Labs was Gaster, therefore...
Gaster confirmed.
Okay, enough. Music
Sure,
now.
yeah.
Despite occurring at the beginning of an exposed melody, the Gaster quote here is quite sketchy. Really, it's just the first 3 notes, and even then, the order of the first 2 is swapped. What saves it somewhat, though, is that this melody actually repeats, modulated down a whole tone, just like another hymn. It's not exactly the semitone modulation from the original, but the effect is almost the same, and it still adds a lot of credibility to the potential Gaster connection. Of course, this track including a deliberate Gaster reference would have some capital I implications about how long ago Gaster's theme was conceived, since Waltz of Second Masada dates back to 2012, but to keep the video focused, let's just ignore that for now.
Okay. Okay, which one is this one? This is Card Castle. I can hear it. I can hear it that one. I can hear it that one. I can
why I spent so much time going on about intervals. The purported Gaster quote in Card Castle is, unlike previous examples, in the bass line. That's not a huge deal. Beethoven hides motifs in the bass, so Toby can too.
Okay.
What is a huge deal, though, is that this pattern isn't Gaster's theme.
It
As
isn't?
discussed,
You
Gaster's
sick
motif
son of
is
a bitch.
characterized by a semitone on the bottom and 7 semitones on top.
It's the opposite on
The
this
Card
one.
Castle bass line is 7 semitones on the bottom and 2 semitones on top.
Well, not the exact
And what
opposite,
I
but
think
semi
it's just a
opposite.
G minor 7 chord. Not only are these intervals different, it's not even a case of just shifting one note. As far as I can tell, the simplest way to turn Gaster's theme into this bass line would be to move the bottom note a semitone lower and then flip the entire thing upside down. But safe to say, that's not actually the thought process people are going through when they
still
hear
kinda heard
Gaster's
it on
theme
the
here.
background.
In terms of audible similarity, it's really just the contour. Up, up, down, down. Widening the net that far puts us back in the Hell dimension where Adele and Chopin have referenced Gaster, so I'm not a big fan of this one.
Let me listen. Let me listen.
Oh boy.
That's why he gives me 2
Bad
seconds.
at designing puzzles, just wait till you see him try to reference Gaster's theme. This shit is literally the first 3 notes of a minor scale played as a harpsichord ostinato. In terms of motivic content, it's much closer to
just said,
referencing Meet
"Fuck
the
it!"
Spy than W.D. Gaster.
Damn. Okay.
Hey kids, ever wondered what the musical
I might have to rewind it a couple times. Not even a couple times. I might have to start rewinding so I can try here. I'm gonna rewind it one time.
Hey
I can
kids,
feel it,
ever
but I
wondered
can't
what
hear it.
the musical equivalent of that Peter Griffin anime girl illusion would look like?
What?
No? Huh, no way, me neither. Thankfully though, that doesn't matter, because whether he meant to or not, Toby Fox has already made it. April 2012 has repeated rising and falling arpeggios, almost the same bass line from Card Castle that everyone thought was Gaster's theme, constant whole tone and semitone modulations, and
hell
a
is that
constantly
track?
shifting melody played by weird inharmonic instruments that obscure the exact notes and push you to focus on the contour instead of the intervals. It is a CIA-grade Gaster hallucination machine. April 2012 does not have Gaster's theme.
God damn it! I could.
Wait, never mind.
I was finna
It
say.
does. Just only for one moment in the last quarter of the track, after gaslighting you for 15 seconds. Very cool, Toby. Thanks for that.
Okay, hold on. Chaos King. Okay, that wasn't hard to hear.
If this sounds familiar, it's because it's the same bass line from Card Castle being played on electric guitar.
Am I getting mixed?
Saves me time at least.
I'm getting mixed, chat. I'm getting mixed. Please stop. I'm getting mixed. Darkness Falls. Okay.
In the original Media Motifs breakdown of this track, they indicated 2 potential quotes of Gaster's theme in different places.
Right.
The latter example, in the left hand of the piano, is quite a stretch. It's just 4 notes cherry-picked from a 6-note arpeggiated chord with the wrong intervals, and, unusually even for sketchy quotes of Gaster's theme, 4 unique notes instead of 3. I'd say in terms of objective similarity that the left-hand piano part of Fallen Down is actually a better Gaster quote than this, but that's kind of like saying your Starbucks venti cup is more likely to be the Holy Grail than a Bourbon Street hand grenade.
What?
The first example, on the other hand,
was gonna say, it
Kinda
repeats that
sounds
one
like
key.
Gaster's theme.
Yeah?
It's nearly an exact quote, except that the fourth note drops down 8 semitones instead of 7 and prematurely returns to the pitch of the starting note. Another point of similarity is that the pattern repeats after a downward modulation, this time by 4 semitones instead of 1, but you know the drill by now. The effect is still similar. What really sells it for me, though, is that by referencing this motif, the melody is forced to emphasize the 7th scale degree on the first note.
Ninja.
Unfortunately, to explain exactly what I mean by that, we'd have to go down a very deep rabbit hole about chord tones versus non-chord tones that would culminate in me basically summarizing the entire concept of functional harmony, which would be fun, but it would also take a very long time. So instead, I'll just say that this note occurring both at the beginning of a melody and on the first beat of a bar means that it's heavily accented.
Okay.
And as such, you generally expect it to be a stable tone, like, I don't know, the tonic or something.
Stop with themselves.
Instead, though, the melody proudly plonks out a scale degree 7, which is just about the most
Shut
unstable
up.
note you can get.
I'm trying to focus and learn.
Overall,
Can
this
you
isn't that
stop?
weird of a move, musically speaking, and there's certainly plenty of reasons to do it besides quoting Gaster's theme, but it's at very least striking. It calls attention to itself and gives the impression that the melody is highlighting the slightly dissonant sound of Gaster's theme rather than trying to pretty it up and make it less conspicuous.
Okay.
All said, it's not the craziest revelation to find a Gaster reference in a song literally named after darkness, but it's still nice to know there's more at work here than pure confirmation bias.
Right. Alright. What is this? Friendship?
The second half
Am I
of this
tripping?
track features a very prominent
I knew those notes were
Gaster-adjacent
long.
pattern in the bass line, but once again, under close inspection, the intervals fail us. The closest it ever gets is
Am I a
this first
bitch?
arpeggio, which is composed of 2 semitones on the bottom and 5 semitones on top, meaning both intervals are slightly wrong. Still, the sheer emphasis the bass line puts on this pattern means we can at least grasp at straws by saying it's a loose variant of the motif that was reinterpreted to fit the track's more upbeat mood.
Okay. What is this one? The Holy?
With it. With every media motif's Gaster sighting so far, I've been able to at least break down my reasoning for why I did or did not think it resembled Gaster's theme, but in this case I'm sincerely not sure what I'm even supposed to be hearing. The melody here sounds a tiny bit like Toby's old Homestuck track, Penumbra Phantasm, which, well, is not Gaster's theme, and the specific part highlighted in the video is just 4 descending notes, which is obviously absurd. At the very end, though, we do at least get a partial match for the first 3 notes of Gaster's theme, so I assume media motifs meant to highlight this and just made a mistake at some point. In any case, even if this quote isn't purely hallucinatory like I first thought, it's still not much to get excited about.
Okay. What's next? The circus. Oh yeah. Unless I'm tripping.
This is a bit awkward. While there is Gastery material in this piece, it turns out to just be quoted from its much meatier older brother in the soundtrack, The World Revolving, which is next on the docket anyway. So, to avoid repeating myself, I'll defer the analysis until then. First, though, it's been a while since I've done a video this long, and it's my qualified opinion as someone who once took a psychology course in first-year university, that all the iPad babies in my audience are in dire need of a brain break. And you know what that means.
Well, I don't know if this is a break or not. Okay, I was
need a break.
I was going to say.
We need to talk.
Keep me locked in.
I realize my vibe can come off as kind of aloof, but I've been in this game for a year now, and I'm wise to word on the street. I've heard what people say. Andrew's videos are good, but his theories are always so safe. He's too afraid of being proven wrong to ever go out on a limb and table anything really interesting. If I wanted to know that Toby Fox wrote Deltarune's narration, I would read Wikipedia. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I get it. I'm not mad. I only brought this up because I want you to keep one thing in mind. Everything that's about to happen next, you asked for it.
The World Revolving is a Gaster-themed battle remix, and why that matters, no fucking way.
You heard right. Get your great Ananzis and Shara X's out of here. That's baby shit. Papa Fox is home now, and he's brought his own mega epic Gaster fan song. Think I'm joking? Well, the answer is yes, but only for the passive-aggressive rant a minute ago. I do genuinely believe, as I have for years now, that Gaster's theme is the core motivic component that the world revolving was built from. Or to be precise, it's what the so-called freedom theme that comprises the song's middle section was built from.
I was just going to point at this.
That's a much longer excerpt than we've seen so far, but just look at the beginning for now. I mean, literally, just look at it.
Like,
the notation isn't lying here. Every single note on the right matches one from Gaster's theme, just a semitone higher. Frustratingly, I can't say that this is a 100% perfect quote. If we look at the 4 notes in the middle, the interval module shows a clear discrepancy. However, in this case, just looking at the intervals actually exaggerates how much has been changed. The notes themselves are all still from Gaster's theme, it's just that the order of the last 2 have been swapped so the melody can end on the more stable tonic note. Or alternatively, if we just fill in the suspicious pause created by this one elongated note... Huh, would you look at that? Onto the second pattern. At a glance it looks pretty different, but the trick is that this F-sharp bottom note here is actually the same thing as the F-sharp top note of the first pattern, just 1 octave lower. If we shift it back up, suddenly it's clear that this pattern is just a rehash of the first one with a single note change to create a more fluid walk down to the F-sharp.
Okay.
After that, we get one more direct quote of the first pattern, and then it trails off into a more free-form conclusion. What I want to stress here is that this is the Freedom theme, or Super Boss theme, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
It's the same melody that reappears in Big Shot later on, and it clearly holds a lot of significance within the game's leitmotivic ecosystem. It's a melody filling a very unique role that would obviously face a ton of scrutiny by the fanbase, and that you'd think would provide Toby a golden opportunity to inject some totally new ideas into the soundtrack. And yet, from what we've seen here, most of its musical identity is ripped straight out of Gaster's theme. This, more than any prior example, makes me suspect an overriding motivation. We're not even done though. The shared part of the Freedom motif ends there, but Jebel's version decides to stick around for a bit and basically pop the fuck off. Wait a minute. Play that again.
Okay. Oh!
Wow.
Stop playing with him.
Is just 4 copies of Gaster's theme in a trench coat. The top note goes up each time, sure, but that doesn't mean there's 4 different musical ideas here. It's really just one idea, Gaster's theme, that's been repeated with a predictable modification each time to turn the top notes into an ascending melody.
Okay.
And again, the following material simply arises from extrapolating that one pattern. Its contour is echoed again here, 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 and here, just with the notes changed to fit whatever the current chord is. These factors is that I not only believe the Freedom theme references Gaster's theme, but that it very well could have been the result of Toby Fox sitting down at his piano and explicitly deciding to arrange Gaster's motif into a raucous boss track. It doesn't have to have been made that way, of course, but it is a hunch of mine, let's call it a theory, that this was the intent.
Oh, he's retiring!
The age-old question of,
what music if Gaster was boss?
Lies not in the countless fan-made interpretations, but was secretly under our noses the whole time. Toby, you sly dog.
I just noticed it said brain rot. I was gonna say hello.
Welcome, honored guest.
To Chapter 2. As of the time of writing, there is no Media Motifs video for Gaster's theme in the Chapter 2 soundtrack, meaning we're officially in uncharted waters. As a result, expect to see fewer candidates, because I can't analyze what I don't notice in the first place, and I'm not brave enough to take the Jaru approach and pull my entire viewer base for every 4-note melody in the soundtrack that one of them happened to hallucinate Gaster's theme in once after 40 hours of sleep deprivation.
Girl next door?
To start us off, we have something that actually kind of surprised me.
What?
Noelle's theme, or specifically what seems to be its default version, Girl Next Door. It's a track that I'd honestly slept on until starting this project, partially because it only plays for one lighthearted scene at the beginning of the chapter, and partially because it's quickly overshadowed by its gloomier, more suggestively titled remix, Lost Girl. As it turns out though, listen for a few moments with the right mindset, and...
Ooh.
Boom. That's a Gaster. Blatantly Gaster.
Okay.
It's in the bass, sure, but that bass line is the first new part to enter the song, and nothing else comes in with it, making it very prominent. On top of that, this isn't a case of some Gastery notes being tossed into an ongoing melody. This bass line comes out the gate with a statement of Gaster's motif, and the motif is echoed in the first few notes of each new phrase that plays after it.
Okay, okay.
The icing on the cake is that this melody pulls the same starting on an accented scale degree 7 trick that Darkness Falls does.
Right.
Just actually on scale degree 7 this time and not 2.
Right.
One might even say, come to think of it, that I originally planned to have the explanation of unstable accented notes here, but then copy-pasted that section of script into Darkness Falls without updating the scale degree number. Oopsie doopsie. Moving on now to our next. But wait, there's more!
Okay.
This is not a drill, folks.
This
That
is not a
wasn't the
drill.
only Gaster reference in this song.
Really?
At 38 seconds in, the Lost Girl theme enters on some sort of glockenspiel with a whammy bar. I don't know, it doesn't matter.
Glockenspiel?
Point is, the melody of Lost Girl actually contains its own Gastery bit. Technically, it's a quote from the Freedom Motif, but it's the Gastery bit of the Freedom Motif.
Ooh.
So, fuck, I guess Gaster's theme follows the transitive property now. Why not? Anyway, in Lost Girl proper, this quote is quite brief, but during its appearance in Girl Next Door, this happens.
Ooh.
It's
What the
extended into
fuck?
a repeating pattern that fills 2 full bars. Hearing one reference to Gaster's theme in a song can feel like you're being winked at. This feels like a taunt.
Queen?
So anyway, Queen's theme. Ah, yep, there it is. Right at the beginning. It's actually identical to the
Actually
first 8
couldn't hear
notes
it.
of the Gastery bit in
Hold
Scarlet.
on.
There it is. Queen's theme. So anyway, Queen's theme. So anyway, Queen's theme.
It's like it's right there. It's right there.
Ah,
Maybe
yep,
he'll do
there
the thing
it
where he
is,
explains.
right at the beginning. It's actually identical to the first 8 notes of the Gastery bit in Scarlet Forest that I already talked about, just transposed to a minor key, so a few of my thoughts on that should carry over. But with the pattern cut so short, most of the structural arguments I made in favor of the Scarlet Forest quote no longer apply, and so this one's a lot easier to brush off as coincidence.
Okay. Moderate brain rot. Welcome home.
Speaking of Scarlet Forest, remember
we-
when I said it was weird that Gaster's motif would be showing up in a random area theme, and that we'd have to see if it was the start of some sort of pattern?
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to report that the answer to that question is yes, but actually no. You see, my one hunch for why that motif would be tied to the Scarlet Forest was that it alone of all the Chapter 1 zones contained the secret egg room, which,
Right.
as discussed, carries at least a faint odor of W.D. Gaster.
Just a little
To
bit.
keep
Just a
that
sniff.
hypothesis alive, what you'd hope to see in future chapters is a Gaster quote in the background music of whatever area contained that chapter's egg room, since it would be
Right.
a valuable piece of evidence linking the Eggman to good old Mystery Man without having to run the conspiracy corkboard hell gauntlet from before. The good news is that Gaster's motif is, indeed, referenced in Welcome to the City, the music for the Cyber City area that contains Chapter 2's egg room. The bad news is that the part of Welcome to the City containing the motif is just a remix of the Cyber Field music, which obviously then also has the reference despite not having an egg room, and the hypothesis implodes.
Damn.
Oh shit, I didn't talk about the music at all. Okay, basically this melody is similar to The World Revolving, and then it opens with this one lightly modified Gaster quote, and then proceeds to mash Ctrl-V and use echoes of that pattern to fill up basically every subsequent bar. The pattern itself isn't quite as solid of a match as in The World Revolving, but it gets an equally huge amount of emphasis, and so still makes for a reasonably convincing reference.
A cyber. Yeah. I heard
just
it.
talked about this.
You know. Okay. Just. You know. Okay.
This is Queen's theme again.
Okay. All right.
This is Queen's theme again. Again.
Okay.
Keep the bangers coming, Toby.
Just making sure.
Ah, shit, he actually did keep the bangers coming. Who could have possibly foreseen this? I, for one, am gobsmacked.
Gobsmacked. Shut up, man. Yeah.
Okay, if you think this is redundant, just be grateful I couldn't detect any Gaster residue in the Sweet Cap'n Cakes' theme. We'd be here until the next Down the Rabbit Hole upload.
Down the rabbit hole. What the hell?
This is the last one, I promise.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, just a little bit. Am I tripping?
Hey, Avery, it's
Big Shot, #1 rated leitmotivic Petri Dish 2021. If you know anything about this track, it's that it's a mashup of no fewer than 5 different themes, to the extent that it could pass as the soundtrack to a fucking Homestuck Flash. Fortunately for this video's runtime though, Big Shot's intersection with Gaster's theme is entirely contained within its reprise of the Freedom theme that I already ranted about for 2 hours in the World Revolving segment, so there's nothing new to actually say here.
Cool beans.
As weirdly popular as this track seems to be with the fan base,
it's
really just a note-for-note reprise of the World Revolving. Strictly speaking, it's not the same part that I covered in the previous World Revolving segment, but it still quotes the main Freedom theme pattern, and as such, inherits most of that song's gasteriness.
Okay. Gasteriness? The boy's gaseous. Flashback?
I wish we had a bang to end on here, but regrettably the soundtrack declined to provide one. What it did provide were a couple extra malformed Gaster arpeggios in the Snowgrave exclusive track, Flashback. The top interval here spans 4 semitones instead of 7, but the bottom is still a proper semitone, meaning it's at least arguably closer to Gaster's motif than the similar pattern from Friendship. Also, like in Friendship, the sheer stubbornness with which the song repeats this pattern is the main thing lending it credibility as a Gaster reference, though in this case the resemblance is furthered by a downward modulation. For a quote that's missing the key 7 semitone leap, this is about as convincing as I think we're gonna get.
Okay. And he said this is the last one, ending with a banger? Okay. Is this a conclusion to the thesis? Not the thesis. Actually, no, this is a conclusion to the paper. To the essay,
so,
that's what I'm looking for.
If you're anything like me, and I hope you are because that's the easiest demographic to target, you're currently thinking something along these lines. Golly gee, Andrew, those sure were just 24 consecutive Gaster's theme sightings you analyzed from the Deltarune soundtrack. It was actually really exhausting and took a long time. What do I do with this information? And to that, I would answer, well, that's kind of your problem now, bucko. Just like with the narrator video, the data is the point of this exercise, not so much the conclusion. With that said, a 2-axis diagram probably couldn't hurt.
Ah, thanks!
Nice diagram, huh? Well,
it is.
Actually, no, it's kind of shit. The DMCA 666 soaked up a lot of the funding. It'll do, though. Here's what you're looking at. On the x-axis, ascending from left to right, is the likelihood of each candidate Gaster reference actually being a Gaster reference. In my estimation, of course. It's just the inverse of the made-up brain rot index that I spent the whole time assigning to the candidates. On the y-axis, ascending in the usual sense, is how much the context in which each candidate track plays primes you to assume Gaster's involvement. In other words, it ranks how much you'd expect a given track to contain a Gaster reference, with the obviously Gastery stuff like another hymn floating to the top, and completely innocuous tracks like, I don't know, Friendship sinking to the bottom. With the axes arranged like so, we can divide the results by quadrant into 4 conceptual categories. In the bottom left, we have what I'll call the null candidates. Songs that shouldn't contain Gaster's theme,
but do.
And don't.
Oh, and
Not
don't. Never
much
mind.
else to say
Shut
here.
up, Chad.
Sorry, Rules Card Night Truthers, it's nothing personal, I just don't think your ideas make any sense or have merit.
Damn.
Up in the top right quadrant, by contrast, we have the trivial positives. These are the Nongshim kimchi-flavored instant noodles of Gaster quotes. They're delicious in the moment, and knowing that you have a healthy stockpile of them in the pantry bolsters your will to live in the wee hours of the morning, but at the end of the day, they're still empty calories. They probably do reference Gaster's theme, but you don't actually gain any new information by noticing that. Boy howdy, another hymn sure sounds a lot like Gaster's theme. No shit, Sherlock, it's in the title. Zonk Scoob, have you noticed that all the Superboss themes imply that Spamton and Jevil might have been influenced by Gaster? Mondo cool, Shaggy. I read the textual evidence for the same thing on the wiki 6 fucking months ago. Moving on the top, I read the themes imply that Spamton and Jevil may have been rockets in the title. Boy howdy, another hymn sure sounds a lot like Gaster's theme. No shit, Sherlock, it's in the title. Zoink Scoob, have you noticed that all the Superboss themes imply that Spamton and Jevil might have been influenced by Gaster? Mondo cool, Shaggy. I read the textual evidence for the same thing on the wiki 6 fucking months ago.
Yo, shut the fuck up,
Moving
man!
On, in the top left, we have a more interesting class of candidates that I totally would have thought of a really cool and academic sounding name for if it contained more than one single song. The Holy, judging by the context in which it plays, is something like a theme for the Dark Fountains. Dark fountains are dark. Darkness. Darker yet darker. Gaster. It all lines up. One problem though. The Gaster reference in this track is hot garbage. I would say it's not there at all, in fact. This is mildly surprising, but also not particularly meaningful, so I'm just going to ignore it.
Okay.
Finally, skadoodling over to the bottom left, we have the good shit. High entropy Gaster references, ones that aren't expected and can potentially be used to predict future
I want to know more
events.
about the girl next door,
I'll
though.
discuss these in more detail.
Please,
First,
appreciate
we've
it.
got Man, aka Waltz of Sekon Masada. The quote here isn't the best, but it just barely clears the bar to lending one more shred of credibility to the Eggman being somehow related to Gaster. It's still very ambiguous though, I wouldn't put too much stock in it myself.
Right.
Next up is Queen's theme. I'm not sure what to do with this one. Relative to how big of a reveal it would be that the chapter antagonists are associated with Gaster in addition to the secret bosses, this quote's just not solid enough to bear that weight, especially when the equivalent quote in King's theme is exponentially worse.
Right.
For April 2012, I don't know, man. Even if Toby Fox crawled out from under my bed and handed me a ratified document professing that the quote here was 100% intentional, what would that really tell us beyond the fact that Gaster's theme has existed since at least 11 years ago? It would be interesting, sure, but not particularly insightful.
Right.
Next up, we have the 3 area themes: Scarlet Forest, A Cyber's World, and Welcome to the City. I've already detailed most of my thoughts on why this trio of candidates is so mysterious. The combination of Scarlet Forest and Cyber City once again suggests some relationship between Gaster and the Egg Rooms, but then a Cyber's World bombs in like the third wheel and blows that pattern out of the...
You know what's crazy? I was thinking about this whole time, and he might say it in like 2 to 5 seconds. But the only reason I would, the reason I was connecting it is because when we do the Snowgrave run and we see, what's his face, Samson in the trash can, and he gives us the thorn ring, and then afterwards when we finish Snowgrave and then we try to go in the fountain, we have to find him, and he talks about how he's in there. That's where I see it connecting. Maybe that's where Samson is like staying, and that's why, you know, the song is really like, you know, in the background, and Samson's in that trash can, but only if we do that run. So I don't know.
The water. Maybe it is supposed to be meaningful, but the Cyberfield music was hastily copied from the Cyber City because of time crunch? That doesn't sound very likely to me, but the strength of these quotes demands some sort of explanation, and working with the information we have now, I don't know what else to give. This might just be a case of wait for chapter 3.
Okay. Girl next door, go ahead and flashback. Give me that.
Very different tracks with
Give me
one
that.
thing in common.
Let me know.
Noel Holiday. These are curious. I want to say they're the only candidates that truly caught me off guard during this analysis, but after giving it some more thought, I'm not sure how surprised I should actually be.
Right.
Looking into Noel's connections with Gaster is sort of like when you learn a new word and suddenly start hearing it everywhere, which I guess makes it a bit like Gaster's theme itself.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes from the Spamton sweepstakes, the story of the mysterious egg that appeared in her video game as a child, accessed by clicking a picture of the tree from the secret rooms. The maze level in Dragon Blazers only she could solve, and how it led her upward to a locked door unlike anything else in the game. Maybe neither of these events has any direct relevance to Gaster, but what they do tell us is that Noel, voluntarily or not, has a knack for breaking games, for finding glitches and uprooting obscure secrets. Normally a pretty benign talent, unless, like Noel, you happen to live in a game as well as play them. And so we come to the weird route. A literal creepypasta-style breakdown of Deltarune's plot, achieved through a series of surreal and seemingly nonsensical actions that are hinted at nowhere and are only possible through Noel's presence.
Right.
Despite being a deliberate addition to the game, everything about the weird route is designed to feel unintended, to simulate the experience of breaking through the game's bounds into something no one was ever meant to see.
Right.
I could continue to wax poetic, but I think by now the parallels with Undertale's fun events should be pretty obvious. Noel is a video game character who's blessed, or cursed, with finding secrets in video games. Gaster is a video game character cursed, or blessed, to be the secret. And that's without even getting into the unused Java cookie item that would have caused Noel to see unreadable symbols when consumed, or opening up the whole can of worms that is Des, the lost girl who may or may not be the one crying out for help in these blocks of unused code that were clearly written expressly as bait for data miners.
Holy
Sure,
shit.
the voice in the code might not be her, and even if it is, who knows what specific circumstances it would imply, but you have to admit that it would be pretty fitting if Noel's search for her missing sister and her fascination with prying Easter eggs out of the dark corners of video games were, in the end, one and the same.
Holy shit. Scared the shit out of me, man.
How's that for a conclusion to the Gaster music theory video? Bet you didn't see an impromptu Noel analysis coming.
You know,
I sure didn't.
I
But
did.
sometimes that's just how the Lancer cookie crumbles. You sit down to analyze Gaster quotes for 30 minutes, and all that's left to say at the end is, Mayor Holiday, I'm afraid your daughter has Gaster's leitmotif as the first melodic content in her theme song. You might want to get that looked at.
Get
or,
that
I
look
don't know,
that.
just make popcorn for when she activates Goner mode in Chapter 6 and guides the party to the Gaster dimension. Up to you. I don't know what she's going to do or when she's going to do it, but Noelle is going to do something cool, and it will be related to Gaster. That's my theory. Quote me on it. As for more standard outro-y stuff, first and foremost, I want to give a big shout out to Toffee Bun for offering to help out with this project.
Let me go ahead and like the VOD.
Work, and not only are they responsible for that minute-long segment you probably noticed, but also the transposed version of Checker Dance and the quote-unquote Major Key Gasters theme. They're currently best known for their video about the production techniques behind the Undertale soundtrack, which I'll link below, but I hear they also have something new coming up, so maybe you should, I don't know, subscribe or something?
You're over there taking damage.
And you know what? While you're at it, check out Vivat Veritas. Completely apropos of nothing. I just like their Deltarune takes and wish they had more views. Regular viewers at this point may find themselves asking, will there be a comment response stream? The answer, regular viewers, is yes.
Oh, I thought you were going to say no.
On Saturday the 24th at noon Pacific time, I'll be live streaming myself responding to as many of the comments as possible.
Is he just...
First come, first serve, so get him in early if you want yours read.
I think, you know...
In terms of the imminent direction of this channel, as many people probably know, I'm now deep into the process of publishing an indie game by the name of Random Access Mayhem. It's a roguelike top-down shooter type thing. You can check out my devlog if you're into that.
Okay.
I won't mince words. That's going to be my life for the next few months. We plan to get a free demo out this summer, and the next video you'll see from me will actually, if Toby decides to, you know, drop Chapter 3 at some point. Come on, buddy, I'm starving down here. But if people are going to be giving me money on Patreon, they need to know what I'm doing with my time.
Right.
Speaking of which, if you give me money on Patreon, you'll get your name made into a credit sequence like this in my next video, as well as other fancy perks like...
So, hold on, let my brain real quick. Let my brain, because I, like, you know, when he made the connection between, hold on, let me bring up the chart again. When he brought up the connection between Girl Next Door and Flashback, I was like, holy shit, hopefully he goes deeper. So, I was going to go deep, I was going DDD in it. We was going to have a deep dive into it, okay? So first of all, let's go ahead and get this out the way. I said, I'm going to be closing my eyes. I'm going to be talking to y'all, but my brain is talking and my eyes isn't, okay? Whatever. I'm not going to be looking at y'all. When I said I was going to have two save files. Save file where I beat the regular game and Snowgrave. Now, 3 and 4, when they come out, we're going to do a run with regular run and we're going to do a Snowgrave run. What does that mean? We're going to take, you know what that means. We're going to take the save file from 3. We're going to take the regular save file from 2 and do 3 and 4. Then we're going to go back and we'll do another run. And then we're going to go through, somebody's probably going to find out a secret in the game in a particular run. But we're going to do one run where we just go through 3. But we start 3 through the Snowgrave run. You get what I'm saying? Then we'll go to 4, and then we'll see if anything changes. And then after a while, after everybody figures out like the secret runs, more than likely hopefully you'll have to do Snowgrave first, and then at least like this, then the third, right? But as for Noelle having a knack for finding bugs and glitches in games, and the fact that the first world that we go into when we snap out of it or when we complete that chapter 1, we find ourselves in a chess game, and then the second chapter we find ourselves in a computer game, right? Basically. And so Noelle, after us basically breaking the game and having Noelle like literally kill people and using her ice powers, I forgot where I was going with that sentence. There was a sentence I was gonna do. Damn it. Where was I going? I don't know. It's cool. Wait, my question is, what is going to be, so the next thing is, it will depend on where the next chapter is. You guys probably know, but I want to stay blind a little bit, unless Toby Fox or anybody dealing to do with Deltarune or Undertale actually release their own trailer, then I'll react to it, but, what I was about to say. It depends on what chapter 3 is and if it has anything to pertain to a game, because that's what the other two basically were, computer games and a chess game. Even though we didn't take Noelle with us in chapter 1, it's still the fact still remains that it is a chess game. Even though you can't really glitch or hack into it, it's a game nonetheless. Chapter 3, most I saw was a TV screen, so I don't fucking know. Anything else I want to say? I'm so glad he went into this to this girl next door in flashback scene, because I was like, what the hell? Why? Oh, but how would that pertain to what's his face? To Gaster. Like he said, whatchamacallit, Noelle has a knack for glitches. Noelle has a knack for glitches and bugs in a game. And Gaster is the glitch that she needs to find. Is she going to be the specific one to find it? It'd be cool if she was. It would be cool if through Snowgrave that we continue being the same deep devious person. It would be cool if we pertain that being a devious person and Noelle is still listening to us, because we whispered Noelle's name at the end of chapter 2 in Snowgrave and she immediately came. So will that be like a reoccurring thing? Like if we're in the dark world, for example, I did see, I tried to avoid it, but there was nothing I could do. If you go down to the bunker that's in the lower map of whatever the fuck, if you go in the bunker, I don't know if you speed it up. I think you speed it up to 666. I also saw it in the comment. I saw it before I saw that comment, but I did see the comment as well. If you speed it up to 666, then it's basically the dark world music. So what was I finna say? Oh, if we're in another world and we go into that world, we can still whisper to Noelle, probably, and she would still come through that door. She'll probably just black out like she usually does. She like when we took that ring, the first ring, she blacked out, and then she woke up and came to the conclusion that, hey, we got the ring, we more than likely paid for it. She can, like, if we Snowgrave run through chapter 3 and chapter 4 and we whisper Noelle's name, she can definitely come through. My hypothesis is that whatchamacallit, she can go through that gate, but I don't know the repercussions that might bring. But I doubt that whatchamacallit, I say gate, I meant bunker. I doubt the bunker is actually gonna be that fucking open. I thought the bunker is probably gonna be come and play not 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7. I forgot if it goes to 8 or not, but 5, 6, 7 is where I'm gonna stop it at. But yeah. This is interesting. And another thing is what, I mean, to be completely honest, to be totally honest, I heard it and felt it in some of the music, but when 3 or 4 come out, I'm not gonna, maybe afterwards, or somebody is more than likely, he's probably gonna make a video about the Gaster things that are gonna be in the chapters 3 and 4. So if I hear it, I hear it. If I don't, you know, I'm just vibing with it. But if I hear it, I will call it out if I ever do notice it. But yeah, this is a good video. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I really don't know where else to go. I mean, I still have mysteries, but this isn't what this video is about. This is specifically Gaster, and for me, it was my bridge to connect Gaster to Noelle. I love the fact that he said that Noelle is prone to find a bug or glitch, and Gaster is the bugger glitch to fucking find. I love the theory around Gaster. I'm loving it. Anyways, I think that's where I'm gonna end it. Like I said, I have a bunch of 6 more videos to watch, and that's gonna happen. They're not gonna be back to back. They're gonna be through the days of this month. It's almost February. Happy Valentine's Day, early as shit. Yeah. Shout out to Andrew Cunningham. Like I said, other videos are coming soon. I still got the genocide run for Undertale Yellow to do. So that's all I got for you today. Tune in next time for some more Deltarune and Undertale content. Like the video, so much. Like and subscribe to the channel to see some more. Really best of my videos come out. Come to comments any other video addition I have. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch. Keep it live on time, but we KingRosé.